Vaid ahameva vedyo vedantakrit vedavit eva chaham. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Purport. The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus, the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitative results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of the knowledge in the form of Vedas as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good. God is all merciful. Antapravisha Shasta Jnanam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So, not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Krishna gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Krishna. Vedic literature confirms this. Yosau sarvair vedair giyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of Vedic philosophy, and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas gives us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words. Tatu Samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can contain Supreme Goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. Hare Krishna.
द्वाविमो पुरुषो लोके शर एव च शर सर्वाणि भूतानि कुतस्थोऽक्षर युज्यते there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. As already explained, the Lord in his incarnation as Vyasadeva compiled in the Vedanta Sutra. Here, the Lord is giving, in summary, the contents of the Vedanta Sutra. He says that living entities who are innumerable can be divided into two classes, fallible and infallible. Living entities are eternally separated parts and parcels of Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta, and the Sanskrit word given here is Shara Sarvani Bhutani, mean that they are fallible. Those who are in oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but there are there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation. Of course, in spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation, but since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in Vedanta Sutra, is the source of all emanations, that conception is explained. According to the statement of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, there are two classes of living entities. The Vedas give evidence of this, so there is no doubt about it. Living entities who are struggling in this world with the mind and five senses have their material bodies which are changing. As long as living entity is conditioned, his body changes due to contact with matter. Matter is changing, so the living entity appears to be changing. But in the spiritual world, the body is not made of matter. Therefore, there is no change. In the material world, the living entity undergoes six changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, dwelling, and vanishing. These are the changes of the material body. But in the spiritual world, the body does not change. There is no old age, there is no birth, no death. There all exist in oneness. Shara Sharvani Bhutan. Any living entity who has come in contact with the matter, beginning from the first created being, Brahma, down to a small ant, is the changing its body. Therefore, they are all fallible. In the spiritual world, however, they are always liberated in oneness. Hare Krishna.
उत्तमपुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेति उदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयम् आविश्य विभर्ति अव्यय ईश्वरः. Translation. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them purport. The idea of this verse is nicely explained in the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13 and Shweta Upanishad 6.13. It is clearly stated there that above the innumerable living entities, some of whom are conditioned and some of whom are liberated, there is Supreme Personality who is Paramatma. The Upanishadic verse runs as follows: Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. The purpose is that among all the living entities, both conditioned and liberated, there is one Supreme Living Personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to different rules. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. A wise man can understand him. A wise man who can understand him is eligible to attain perfect peace, not others.
Hare Krishna. Stop.